Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the Sunflower Reports. Today, we're going to talk about some of the witness list names that were released for the Tupac murder trial. And Suge Knight is actually on that list, which I'm very surprised about because apparently, in a 2023 interview that he did with TMZ, he said that he would never testify. So, we're going to go through some of the names that are on this list. This has been something that has been ongoing. I don't even know if we're really going to get down to the truth of the matter as to who actually killed Tupac and who orchestrated it. I feel like it's much more deeper than what's on the surface. But let's get into this. The jury trial for the man accused of orchestrating the murder of Tupac Shakur is scheduled to begin on August 10th, which is here in a few more days. 8 News Now has obtained the list of the witnesses prosecution intends to call for to testify. In September 2023, a Clark County grand jury indicted Dwayne Keffe D. Davis, 62, on a murder charged for the rap icon's 1996 shooting death. Davis has remained in custody on a $750,000 bond since his arrest and was serving a sentence for a 2024 jail fight. In 2019, in a 2019 book and in online interviews, Davis has publicly said that he was sitting in the front passenger seat of a car which pulled up side by side with Shakur's before the shooting near the Las Vegas Strip. Marion Suge Knight, the then head of Death Row Records, was driving the car with Shakur sitting in the passenger seat. Knight was injured in the shooting. Shakur died from his injuries several days later. I think this was about 6 days later that he died from his injuries. Michael Samt, Davis's attorney, filed 3 motions attempting to sequester the jury and dismiss the evidence, including the 2019 book and recorded interviews in June. Clark County District Court Judge Carly Kearney denied jury sequestration this part and allowed part and partial sequestration to be discussed at a later date. The judge sided with prosecutors that the 2019 book was admissible, but said that she took issue with the recordings conducted by police of Davis, saying it was not clearly admissible and could be revisited. The ruling means that the book will be heard in trial. So this book is a memoir. I'm going to actually show you all what they're talking about here because he wrote a memoir, and in that memoir he was talking about some of the accounts of what happened with the whole Tupac Biggie thing, right? And then they're going to be using some of that as evidence, and his attorney tried to stop them from doing that, and the judge did not rule in their favor. Let's get into the witness list here. Suge Knight, he's 61. He was injured in the same shooting that killed Tupac. The witness documents list his address as the California Department of Corrections. He is currently serving a 28-year sentence for voluntary manslaughter in a fatal 2015 hit and run. Oscar Goodman. Oscar Goodman was 87. He was a mayor of Las Vegas from 1999 to 2011. Prior to serving as mayor, Goodman worked as a defense attorney, often representing defendants accused of organized crime. His son, Ross Goodman, also an attorney, previously appeared in court alongside Davis but is not officially retained for the case. David Chesnoff, a law partner of Goodman's, was also listed. Governor Joe Lombardo, Republican Governor Joe Lombardo, became an officer with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department in 1988. 8 years before the fatal shooting of Tupac, he was the sheriff of the department from 2015 to 2023. Davis was arrested shortly after Lombardo transitioned to being governor. Reggie Wright Jr. Reggie Wright Jr. is the former head of security at Death Row Records. Ooh. Davis said that Wright was the man who organized the hit on Tupac. Reggie Wright Sr. is also listed on the document. Members of Shakur's family, several family members of Tupac's family is also to testify. Shakur, Tupac's sister, Maurice Shakur, Tupac's stepbrother, and Katari Cox, which is Tupac's cousin. There are going to have the people who have done documentaries. That list is Richard Bond, Mario Diaz, and Mike Dorsey. Additional names mentioned in the document include Kirk Burroughs, the founder of Bad Boy Records, Paula Clemens, PPD's wife, and Eugene G. Deal. Gene Deal, Diddy's bodyguard, Yusuf Shah, the co-writer, or co-author, I should say, of KPD's 2019 memoir, and Leonard Jefferson, who took a photo of Tupac and Suge in the car minutes before the shooting. This part here is interesting to me. Like the fact that he had a couple of minutes to stop and take a photo right before gunfire erupted. That's interesting to me. What else do we have here? More people named were Trevon Lane, who was involved in a brawl with Tupac at the MGM Grand in the hours before the shooting after the Mike Tyson boxing match, and Rashida Smith, the girlfriend of Orlando Anderson, who is primarily the person of interest for 1996 shooting. This is the person who Keffe D said orchestrated the hit and killed Tupac. So, but apparently, according to him, he didn't do it. So it's a lot of he say, she say in this. I think there's much more that goes into this. Also mentioned on the witness list was Frank Alexander, Tupac's bodyguard on the night of the shooting. He died in 2013. How convenient. Um, I'm not saying this is a conspiracy, but I am saying it's a conspiracy, right? So let me show you all the actual memoir that they're referring to that they're going to be using as evidence. This is the memoir that they're referring to. It's called Compton Street Legend: Notorious KPD Street Level Accounts of Tupac and Biggie Murders, Death Row Origins, Suge Knight, Puff Daddy, no, not Puff Daddy, Puffy Combs, and Crooked Cops. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read this for y'all, just so y'all can get an idea of what is in this book. The infamous Suge Knight, former Death Row Records CEO, and I are the only living eyewitnesses to the deadly confrontation on the Las Vegas Strip between the occupants of our two vehicles. A violent confrontation that led to the deaths of two hip hop stars a violent confrontation that led to the deaths of two of hip hop's biggest stars, Tupac Shakur and Christopher Notorious B.I.G. Wallace, and changed hip hop history forever. There's a strict code in the streets, one that real street players live, kill, and die by. Compton Street Legend reveals that the street level code violations and the explosive consequences when the powerful worlds of the streets, entertainment, and corrupt law enforcement collide. More than 20 years after the premature deaths of Tupac and Biggie, there have been numerous TV shows, documentaries, books, magazines, and newspaper and social media dedicated to this topic. Now that's big because after all this time, I think to now in 2026, it's been about 30 years since the death of Tupac, right? And there's been numerous documentaries, news headlines about this case, and nobody can seem to pinpoint exactly what happened. And he goes on to say, but at the end of the day, none of the private investigators, retired police officers, informants, hip hop heads, actors, or academics that have weighed heavy on the topic truly know what happened and the reason behind it because none of them were there. Dwayne Keffe D. Davis, a native of Compton, California, admittedly lived most of his life as a gangster, a real gangster that did the S that real gangsters do. He rose up the gangbanging ranks to become a shot caller for the notorious Southside Compton Crips while running a multi-million-dollar multi-state drug empire. Keffe D has been a central figure in both the Tupac Shakur and Biggie murders for the past 20 years. Compton Street Legend will add valuable information about the two of the biggest unsolved crimes in American history. It will serve as a missing piece of the puzzle that hip hop fans have been waiting for. On the surface, Compton Street Legend will look at the story based on violence and hate. It is actually a story about love, family, brotherhood, loyalty, trust, and honor. See, and the fact that he thought that they weren't going to use this, right? You're talking about you have inside details that no one else has because they weren't there about the murder of Tupac, right? That's very, very, very interesting to me that he decided to write this and then thought that law enforcement was not going to use it or the prosecution was not going to use it, right? So let me know what you all think in the comments. I'm going to make a separate video once this trial gets started, talk about what was happening in the courtroom. The court did allow for cameras to actually be in the courtroom, so we'll be able to see what's taking place. So we don't have to rely on, media platforms, news platforms, and independent journalists or journalists that work for, these media platforms to actually give us the inside scoop on what's happening in the courtroom. Let me know what you all think in the comments, and I will see you all in my next video.